All right, good evening. It is 6 o'clock, April the 8th, 2024. Call the City of Montgomery Planning and Zoning Commission special meeting to order. Dave, I guess we have a couple speakers.
Yes, sir, and if the commission is okay to hear the speakers at the time of the item, then...
Yeah. Is that what you'd all, Cheryl and Jay, would you rather speak at the time of the item?
Yes.
Okay, all righty. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and get going. Item number 1, consideration and possible action on the wall sign application for Painted Pottery Studio located at 14259 Liberty Street, Suite B in the Historical Preservation District.
Members of the commission have the information in front of you there. This is just a wall sign that is white letters. The applicants gave me know this morning, letting me know that they had a sick leave and weren't going to be able to be here, but it was not a lack of interest on their part. The decision of the commission, they just couldn't make it work with schedules. So, again, the information is here. I'll be happy to answer any thoughts or questions that you have on it.
On the outside sign that used to be the previous owners, there's a list of already businesses that are on there.
Right.
Is Painted Potter going to be on there as well?
Yes, ma'am, and one of the placard things, so the commission on that, the commission approved the overall sign, the little small inserts, just listing the name or the name of business.
Because don't we have something about in our ordinances where the signs, because there was a question like 2 buildings down where the sign was out front, but yet on the outside of the building it was duplicated again, and there was a question about, I guess, the duplication of just the wording, and they wanted a sign on the side of the building. It passed, but I'm just wondering, did we set a standard for that, or is this something?
That specific piece of the code.
All right. We just had a meeting about it and we had to vote on it. So I'm just wondering if this is going to fall in that same...
There's nothing that I'm aware of that
Okay.
is, that says you can't have a sign on a wall and, a sign on a sign that you're standing out front of.
And the sign is just the white side. Well, they're not here anyhow. It's not illuminated like the gift shops at all. It's all staying the same.
And the gift shop, I don't believe, and the owner of the building is here, so I'm going to go just confirm the other letters on the wall, like the gift shop and Texas and Beyond, those aren't internally lit, right? There's no electricity or anything, so this would be the same.
The same, all the same as everything on the
She's just
back.
putting her name above that door.
Okay, all right.
I make a motion, we approve the sign as presented.
I second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for the approval of the wall sign at the Painted Potter at 14259 Liberty Street, Suite B. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes, all in favor, all not in favor say no. The yeses have it, so item 1 passes. Item number 2, consideration and possible action on a proposed outdoor wall memorial for the North Houston Art Gallery located at 14259 Liberty Street in the Historical Preservation District.
Members of the commission, the information in your packet, again, this is proposed to be, for the benefit of the audience, and those who don't know, this is an outdoor mural that is proposed to be on the north side of the North Houston Art Gallery building, formerly the Pont building. And with that, the owner is here. I'll let her answer any thoughts or questions that you guys have. And is the artist with you? Just
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. First, let me ask, is there any questions? I know you haven't had a chance to look at the material. I do have Amy McLean, who is the artist, and just in case you have any specific questions for her.
My first question is this the exact what's going to be on that wall, or is that just a suggestion of what you might possibly put on there?
That's just basically a rendering, just so that we can show them what elements would be in the picture, so it won't be quite.
So it looks like the
perfectly.
church, the stable, there's a wagon out front, two, I guess, patrons that have their horses out there, another farrier, looks like. Is there any other, and it looks like maybe possible trees that'll be painted. Is there any other, the Texas flag, is there a name of the stable or anything that's going to be insignia, or is it just going to say livery stable?
It'll just say livery stable, because it's just kind of like an idea of what may have been there, since there's no actual proof in any of our history records, besides the, stuff that was found there in the ground.
Right.
Did you go to the museum across the street and ask any information about that and other historical society members?
So just a bit of a backdrop in terms of what led us to pursue creating this mural for the city. We received, when we purchased the building, 3 tokens from Kurt and Emily, and those were found by Duncan as they were preparing some work for the Jones. In discussion with Mrs. Owens, it was told to Mr. Duncan that those 3 tokens were part of the historical nature of that property. We had a discussion with Mr. Duncan, and the museum would like the 3 tokens be placed into the museum with a little bit of history that ties that together. So the concept around the mural is really to bring all of that to fruition so that we would not lose that element of history for the city, and it could be a teaching moment going forward.
Now, is that, on the thing you submitted, it said that the siding will remain blue, so this is going to be like a cloud?
Right, it'll be kind of phased out on the outside where it'll fade away, and then when I made the rendering, I just accidentally made it all one solid color underneath. I had originally thought they were going to paint the whole wall white, so.
So is that street, are y'all using that small street right there as a throughway, or do people park there now, or?
That street remained, it's part of the property ownership, but that street remained as a throughway.
But nobody's going to be parking there to block the mural?
No.
Okay.
No.
So Dave, when they go to paint this, do we have to have the exact render, or what she's exactly going to paint, or can we say yes to the idea of what it is she's putting on there? Do we say yes?
I understood this to include all of the elements and while small.
Right, I'll get that, but it will look a little more realistic.
Okay.
That's just a digital
Okay, okay.
sketch out,
All right.
so that's what, it's a true rendering, not an actual paint.
So all the characteristics like we're talking about, all those will be in that picture.
Right.
It'll just be a little more
It's just to show different
defined.
elements, or maybe a few more things around the barn
Right.
to show a true barn scene, but that was just to give them an idea of like, this is what the barn will look like, the church will be back here,
And it's going to be in black and white?
Yes, it was requested to be black and white, it can have a little color in it if anybody prefers, but,
I'd like the Texas flag to be the Texas flag colors,
okay.
preferable.
Yeah, it was.
And if you want to paint that paint horse with the paint.
Yeah, it was requested to be black and white in the beginning, which is why that was kind of like you're looking back in the past. And then I just added a little color because it seemed too
I
light.
think the Texas flag in color with the rest black and white would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Texas flag should stand out.
Sure. It's no problem.
I make a motion that we accept the drawing as submitted.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the wall memorial at the North Houston Art Gallery located at 14259 Liberty Street. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no. The yeses have it. Item 2 passes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Oh, when are y'all going to start? I forgot to ask. Do you know?
Well, probably within the next 2 weeks.
Oh, cool.
So,
Right.
as soon as possible, depending on how the weather decides to
Great.
act.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, we'll move on to item number 3. Consideration and possible action on a special use permit application for an event venue proposed at 504 Caroline Street in the Historical Preservation District.
Members of the commission, what you have before you is an application for an event venue, which since we do not have that in our zoning table of uses, that requires a special use permit. So the property's already zoned B commercial. The requested use again is an event venue, which would require the special use permit to be granted by council. The commission's role, the ordinance lays out what the role of the commission is in this process, and it's to look at the character and development of the neighborhood and the effect that it might have on the comprehensive plan. Because special uses are, the very nature of them not being included in the table of uses means there could be something that's, specific to that use that may need some additional guidelines on it, whether it's, I've given some examples there, related to parking and hours of operation. That's not, a definitive suggestion that that stuff be included, just examples of the types of things that the commission and the council may choose to address in that special use permit if it's approved. And again, the idea behind those conditions would be that those conditions would be integral to protecting the surrounding property owners from any negative consequences. So with that, we have the applicants here that can answer any detailed questions. They've given me an overview, which again you have in your packet to review. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Romero and let you ask any questions or comments you have.
How y'all doing this evening? I'll let you go ahead and take a look at it and see if you have any questions. Again, like you were saying, this is originally utilized as Grace Point's Design Center. So this is going to be a separate, not a separate space, but utilizing the outdoor space as a rental event venue.
What kind of an event is this going to be?
This would be varied events, so it's not specifically as we're trying to host an event. It's a space that people would be allowed to rent based off of an hourly space, time rate, for whatever purpose they would like to utilize the space for it.
Is alcohol? Is alcohol going to be served?
That would be dependent upon the people purchasing. We would not be providing any alcohol.
So you say that it's outside parties that are renting. Are you all going to supervise it?
No, we would not be supervising. We will have somebody available. But we wouldn't be in direct attendance.
So there would be no one there controlling?
Correct. So we're utilizing it specifically for their purpose of rental.
So it's self-honored then on how things go that evening?
Correct. Well, there's people that are inside of the main house that's separate from us. So the actual Grace Point company would still be utilized inside of the building, and we're just using that outdoor space.
What size events are you looking at, the numbers of people?
It could vary between 20 to 100.
What are you looking at for parking? I see you suggest the possibility of the church parking lot. But
Correct. So we haven't reached out to them just yet to see if they would be interested in allowing us to utilize that space or working out a specific deal with them. So it's kind of dependent upon what y'all also have.
So you've reached out to them, or you're going to reach out to them?
We're going to reach out to them.
You have not reached out?
What has been done to that house is really, been part of the comprehensive plan outside, that's never really been supported at that. The parking is going to be the big problem. There's no parking downtown at all. I mean, you're saying 100 people, you're talking 50 more cars sometime in the evening or sometime in the afternoon. And now, we've got business owners patrolling their parking lot and chaining it up when it's not used.
Cars parking on both sides of the road.
And now I can, something like this, people trying to park down the
Street.
residential streets, which aren't meant for other than residential traffic. One way I could see it being if you could come up with agreement with the church.
Absolutely.
And I think that's been tried before with no avail. But I, with the lack of public parking downtown, I mean, it's,
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Without some kind of a firm agreement for parking with the church, the parking down there, any event that you would have would be extremely difficult for businesses and parking and police. So I just don't see how I can make it work.
So across the street from there, there's, I want to say, a consolidated telephone communication, a little brick building, and then that parking lot.
Correct. Right. The city leases, just for clarity, the city does lease that consolidated lot and the gravel lot. We're actually in the process now, Gary, the city administrator, is working with Consolidated to update the lease, which expires next year. The lease didn't specifically say if it was the gravel or the concrete lot, so we're trying to clarify that now and just ensure that we lease it all. Probably 20 spaces maybe. That's a guess. If we can, once we secure the lease, the city is going to look and see if we can maximize the parking there on those, in that lot. But,
So right now, do we have it under contract?
right now, the gravel one, we know we do. It's just the concrete lot that's there, it just doesn't speak to that.
So how do you monitor the gravel area where people park? Would that be?
The city lets people park there, and it's public
So it's free,
parking,
okay.
used by, anyone, who's going to anywhere downtown.
So on your hours, what are you offering to the people that walk into your establishment and want to rent the outdoor facility for an event? What are the hours that you are allowing them to rent?
So currently, it's going to be a daytime rental option, so
What are-
between noon to 3. And then additionally, the evening rental would be 5 to 10, potentially later, depending on what comes with this.
What is our cutoff in town for noise?
10.
Noise 10 p.m.
Okay, so your rental would have to shut off at 10.
so would
Again,
they,
there can be noise after 10, it just can't exceed a certain level. And,
Yeah.
and you get, late night events, I'm not going to say that they don't.
so in your agreement with your renters, are they required to have a off-duty security?
Currently, we are not requiring that, but if that's something that needs to be required.
I mean, if they're,
If they serve alcohol.
if they serve alcohol,
Can they sell alcohol? It's too close to the church, isn't it?
I think it's too close to the church too, but I haven't had to clarify.
I am not familiar enough with TABC licenses to know.
Okay, that would be
like a mobile alcohol vendor, like guys who will show up at, weddings and things like that.
or bring in your own,
If it's a private event, they can bring their own cooler, right?
right.
So, I would think that we have to have law enforcement there. Any city facility, the city operates, they require police.
Right, if there's alcohol, we do require, like, a community building or anywhere else.
Right.
So if it's an outdoor venue, where are the restrooms?
Those would also be included in our rental agreement.
So there'd be porta cans sitting out there?
Yes, correct.
On the property or outside the
On
property?
the property.
And that's Monday through Friday, Saturday through Sunday, Monday?
It's actually going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So there's a whole lot of questions yet to be answered
Yeah.
on a lot of this. This is just a discussion to be passed on to the city council, correct?
Right, so the commission makes a formal recommendation, you can make that recommendation, I'll use the example of parking, with the Lutheran church, if the commission said, we want to recommend approval contingent on something like a parking agreement or something like that, you could take no action on it, you could table it and want to see that parking agreement. It's really, up to you. Again, the recommendation from this body can include those conditions. It could just be a recommendation to approve or deny it, or you can take additional time to wait to ask them to come back with things that
Yeah.
that you feel are important enough that you want to see verified before you sign off on
Well-
a recommendation to council. The overall schedule, just real quick, the council tomorrow night is going to call the public hearing
Okay.
for the SUP for 1 month from tomorrow night. So their first meeting in May is when they would be acting on it. So there's going to be one more meeting between the commission, or there's going to be one more P&Z meeting before the council acts.
Okay, so if we list the items to be, for them to answer or to present to the city council or to come back to us, then we can go over them again at our next meeting.
Right. Again, so you've got the option of either, making a recommendation contingent on those being met sometime, within the next month. And if they, for instance, if they weren't met, then the council wouldn't get a recommendation from you guys.
I would like for them to come back and present them to us,
Yeah.
Me
so
too.
that way we know what's going on.
I think there's two things that are critical to me. One of them is getting a written agreement with the church. The other one is to discuss with the chief of police what your plans are as far as the events and everything. And get a concurrence or approval from the chief of police that that whole concept of the events is acceptable.
My concerns are as what everyone else has already said, but the noise, because when this first venture started, it blew out of control pretty quickly, but it ended up being very presentable in downtown. There is a stage, and you did say in the, I don't know if you did, you didn't, because you're the first time I'm meeting you, but they said that they were going to possibly have bands. So there's your noise. And then my next one is the lights, because I didn't see any lights strung across the artificial grass that was laid down, so I don't know. And then the lights just for people coming and going in the different, there's got to be lights on that other patio.
Landscaping lighting, that's already been installed.
Yeah.
That was part of the original.
Yes, I'm just wondering the lights when it goes on and the time of day, and you've got, it's open. Like if you have a band out there and you have a rental going on, I mean, you've got all the lights on. And the rental size, 20 to 100, that I'm not sure of the conditions that come under play when you rent a space, of how much space is required for that quantity of people for that type of venue. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I know they spoke with the fire marshal, and he didn't have any concerns with the outdoor space, given that it was an outdoor space,
Right.
As well as ease of being able to
Okay.
be in that, get out of that space.
All right.
So, I know that wasn't a concern previously.
Yeah.
What type of food do they plan on serving?
That would also not that's not within our control.
Oh, that means a food truck.
Would it be a big, you need an ANSOL system?
Another special use permit.
You would need an ANSOL system to cook on?
Would you allow them to have food preparation there, or would it have to be entirely catered?
It would have to be entirely catered.
And there's no kitchen facility or current alongside.
So that means a food truck
Or cater.
or a caterer who brings in food. Is there something?
Food truck would have to park on the property.
And we've had,
For that.
I think we've had 3 venues that have had, I'm Tom Cox, I own the location. We've had 3 venues so far that were within our use. They were realtor gatherings, and one of them was the Chamber of Commerce gathering that we had. And we had, 75 to 100 people. We did not have a problem with parking. We did serve alcohol. We had the guys from H Wines, they provided it. It wasn't for purchase. It's not our interest to sell anything other than the opportunity for people to do, baby showers, executive meetings, obviously provide, wedding reception, that kind of stuff to kind of play off the church. So we're, and when it comes to like the noise, anything that we're doing is is subject to whatever the city requires. So we would meet all those requirements of noise and.
Right.
So we had music a couple times, and it was all acoustic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's just
We're not
something,
looking to bring in,
Right.
Def Leppard or.
yeah, that's just something we want to see.
Why not?
We want to have guidelines, so everybody's on the same page right from the
In my
get-go.
opinion, I feel like the guidelines are already there from the city. Like, you can be this loud till this long. You know, parking, I mean, people figure parking out.
Well, that's the problem. Yeah,
That's the
I
problem.
understand, but I don't think we should be required to have some agreement with the church necessarily in order to get the permit to have a venue, because.
well, the problem is that people need a place to park, okay? We're already having feuds downtown about parking. And if you're going to bring people in for your venue, I can understand the people downtown, you're taking away from their established venue, okay? Their restaurant, their bar, whatever. So now you come in early, then their people don't have no place to park.
Right.
So parking is a problem, and it is an issue, and it is an issue with the venue.
Right, and it's yeah, I understand. And we're working on some other stuff for parking for the city too, like long term.
Right, I understand. But right now, I mean, you see, you've been down through there on a Saturday afternoon. It's not safe. I mean, it's people can find places to park, but usually it's not the best place to park.
Yep, they park on our grass all the time.
Yeah.
What is the special use permit length?
Typically, they can either be open-ended in terms of the duration of them, just, as long as the players are the same, they can be as short as 1 year, depending on, ultimately the council is going to set a time for that, So we've never done a special use permit for an event venue, but just to give you an example on others, typically, like a 3 to 5 year approval. Again, if it's something that's a little unique and, the city's willing to try it out, it can be for, a year. Just, there's a balance of, trying to provide the predictability for someone to invest in a business. You want at least a reasonably foreseeable path through it, but again, there doesn't have to be a timeline, though typically we have seen timelines on it in the past.
Is there a cost to it?
Yes, ma'am. The application for a special use permit is $500, regardless of whether it's granted or not. And again, that just covers, or what the fee covers is the legal notice publication and the attorney's time to draft the ordinance that becomes the permit itself.
Is it $500 a year, $500 one time?
No, that's just the application fee.
Okay.
It's not a fee to hold the permit.
All right.
There's no other cost, beyond, again, the legal notice and the attorney's time.
And our ordinance police officer would make sure that anything that they're doing, like if it's a food truck that they sit on the parking lot, it's part of what our agreement is in downtown Montgomery as to what it is and how much it is and if it can sit there and all that. They follow those rules, right?
Right.
Okay.
The code enforcement officer would definitely play kind of the leading, role in the enforcement of this or any other regulation, whether it be sound or something like that.
So do we know when there's going to be something? Like do they have to come to the city to tell us that they're having a venue event? Nope. Okay.
You put the framework around the use itself, but
Okay.
not the individual activities, within that use.
All right. But you're going to work along with what else is going on in downtown, correct? Like we have movie night, we have first Saturdays, we have bingo
Sip and walk.
Huh?
Sip and walk.
Sip and walk on Thursday. Y'all were working within those confines of what else is going on in downtown?
It's definitely something we can keep in mind when we look at our calendar and how we're setting things up.
Cox family's done a great job with that building, and We
Yes.
certainly want to work
Yeah,
with
we wanna
you
work
on
with
this.
Yeah, it's a nice building.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what's the event venue at, what is that, Prairie and Butler?
The Chandler House?
Chandler House. What's that, do they have any restrictions? Do they have an agreement for parking? Because there's not a whole lot around there.
They kind of serve more, they don't. They, operate kind of as a, they work a restaurant, for a while, and then now it's just there.
That's a little event. They have what's along their street, the 8 or 9 spaces are their parking.
Right.
And then they got some back behind, so they do have,
They've got a whole parking lot back there?
well, there's I don't know, maybe about 7 or 8 cars around back. But yeah, it's not much. It's like,
It seems like a tough requirement to require from them. Like, I agree wholeheartedly it's an issue. It seems like a tough requirement to say you have to have this agreement in place to have our recommendation for approval. The city of Montgomery hosts many events, parades, et cetera, that bring a lot of people into town without additional parking available.
yeah. Like I said, one thing I don't want to happen is we have a lot of stuff downtown. If you have an event at your place and those people come in, they can't find a place to park, well, they're never going to come back to your venue. Plus, people going to Cozy Grape or the Crawfish Place, they come in from wherever to come to eat. They have to turn around and go home. They're never going to come back to Montgomery. So we do have to.
I do agree with that.
We have to do something. We have to have something in place just to protect everybody. I wish there was a.
Yeah, I definitely understand that concern.
Well, we have on-site parking, obviously, and then there's obviously city parking throughout the area.
Yeah. So the Saturdays, Thursday evenings, Friday evenings, whoever's having that can use your lot for parking?
If we come to some agreement, sure. No.
Well, see, now we're now we're.
Yeah.
Because I think Burger Fresh is taped off, I think everything, Cozy
Just
Grave.
for example, the Crawfish, they don't have,
No, I'm saying with your, the venue that wants to use your, they have use of your parking lot?
100%.
Okay, that's what I was asking, yeah.
Is Pecan Shadows another name going on the sign? Or is it already there?
It's not on there. It would go on after we get this.
The go on the existing sign. Is there any more signage or anything going to happen?
Not that I
Okay.
Okay.
Do we want to do a list?
What's that?
Do we want to do a list of what it is we need and then present it to city council so they can go over it? Of what it is we think?
Yeah, we can. Did you start?
I started the list.
Okay.
I'm the list girl.
Oh, you the list girl? Okay, so what's,
Well, number one, parking
okay.
and the safety aspect of it, of policing.
Number 2, safety.
Yeah,
Safety and security.
yeah.
Security.
Noise, lights, hours, and size of the rental.
We have no problem requiring security, in the event that the alcohol is on site.
I also think that we should get the chief of police involved.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I've got parking, safety, security, hours of operation, lights, MPD, anything else? Okay. What are we going to do? Table it
That would be the motion.
to get it going? And then,
And submit our recommendations.
We'll
yeah,
submit our recommendation next month.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I make a motion to table this until our next meeting, and in the meanwhile, we're going to request that the
Applicant.
supply information from the list that we've put together and work within the city ordinances and codes in order to achieve what we need.
Are there specific, if I can ask real quick, just for
We've got
We got it.
We've got parking, safety and security, hours and lights, if there's going to be any lighting. If we need to get the MPD to coordinate with some of their events.
Were there specific, what was it about the lighting and the noise that?
Well, I mean, if they're, somebody wanted to bring in, lights
Or anything like that, the lighting?
spotlight, yeah, right.
Gotcha. What I'll do is I'll take this list, I'll get it from Miriam after the meeting, and I'll let them have it. So they're able then to make the steps and do the work that you want to do.
That's my motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, you're going to have to help me. Okay. We got now this is not to pass
It's the table.
or today, it's just a table for
Table subject to receipt of the
the
information.
city that gets the city council information and then comes back to us, correct?
Well, you will see it before the council does.
Okay, all right.
You'll see this back at your May meeting, and then the very next Tuesday is when council will meet.
Okay.
And have a hearing, right? Yeah.
Okay, so for item number 3, we're going to table it till the next scheduled P&Z meeting. And we'd like for you to, if you could, in more detail, address the parking, safety, security, hours of possible, some of the, at least the cutoff time in the evening of your hours. And if you have a meeting with the chief
Chief of police.
Chief of police to see if he has any concerns or suggestions that to bring to us. That's good? Okay, is that enough?
Yeah, yeah.
Enough information? Okay, all right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Oh,
All those.
we had a motion and a second?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
No say no. Okay, the yeses have it. So item 3 is actually not passed, it's tabled. Okay. Item 4. Okay, so item 4 is a presentation and discussion on a development proposal for 623 Old Plantersville Road. And we have one speaker, guest speaker. Would you like to do that now?
After?
If she could, can she reserve it for after the
Yeah,
discussion?
yeah, whenever you'd like, yeah.
Dr. Wayne, she's an adjoining owner of the property.
Okay, all right.
So with that, I'll just point you to the information in your packet. So this Bullwater's here. Many of you are familiar with this property. It's about a 5-acre property there on page 173 of your packet. Shows the property itself. And Ms. Bullwater has some ideas for purchasing the property and possibly subdividing it. So with that, I will let Ms. Bullwater come to the podium and just give you just a quick overview of her thoughts and ideas. And this is not a formal action item. There's no action needed. This is really for the potential buyer to get the feedback from the commission that will help inform her decisions going forward. So please feel free to talk about any ideas. These are all just ideas at this point. You won't leave here tonight with her having any formal approval to do anything. This is just before she starts that process to get an idea of what the commission thinks about the possibility of it.
To confirm, if this were to come back to us, it'd be in the form of preliminary plat for replatting, correct? That would be our role in that
Yeah,
that
we'd be
situation.
looking at any variances or the variances needed that the commission would have to weigh in on that wouldn't be related to lot size, but, there'd be other, but you're right, the kind of the next step in this, if she moves forward, would be for the commission to start looking at those minimal and routine things that are part of the development, like the plat and that type of thing.
Okay.
So with that, I'll turn it over to the school board. You just want to give just a basic idea of, what you're thinking, and you need this to talk from?
No, I have a cheat sheet.
Gotcha.
Hello, and it's fun being back here. It's my hometown. I don't know if you how many, I feel like know my family, but we've been around here a long time.
I do.
And I've been working with a real estate agent on this property and pretty excited about it and want to see what my opportunities are with it. It's got some challenges, but I think that they're fun challenges, and I look at them as opportunities. Most notably would be the historic building, which I'm a preservationist at heart. We restore old buildings, old homes in Houston Heights, outside of Belleville, New Braunfels. So it's been a little bit of a passion and something I really enjoy doing. So that being said, I wanted to find out what I could do with this building. As far as, first, I'd like to move it somewhere on the property. But where it's located at this moment, it's just really awkward, for lack of a better analogy. So I wanted to review those options. Also, explore the opportunity to break up the 3 acres, 4 acres, into 3 or 4 different tracts. It would be a nice home development and have what I call the country setting in town. And so there's some ingress, egress limitations on it, so I wanted to explore those opportunities as to what I will be able to entertain doing within the framework.
Is this Mr. Shockley's property? I thought we couldn't move that house.
It is a city-designated historic landmark, which just means that anything to the that's done to the exterior of the home does require the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So it's not that the home could not be moved or relocated on the property.
On the property.
It would just require, the approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council to.
So it would stay on the property, not move over to Fernland or something like that?
At least what I understand now, this would just move somewhere else on this same.
On that, okay.
Which bill?
We're entertaining on there. There's a lot that's right there.
This is the old house. This is their barn. And this is a 3-sided building.
It faces
This is
the road so
beautiful.
that that way
This is
we
the one they were
have
talking about.
Yes.
public access.
About the barn.
We had some exciting opportunities that just came through today from, it could be a host for Preservation's Historic Society for offices or for their utilization. So I thought that was pretty exciting stuff. And
What access would you use? Old Planters, which Old Plantersville side would you use for access?
If you look on there, there's, it says, the one that says Joseph Shockley.
Yeah.
There's a lot that's right there.
Yeah.
I'm calling it a lot, but it's pretty large size.
Yes.
And I would like to make it onto that. That's ideally,
Instead of putting a home on there, you'd make it an entry to where you're going.
well,
Okay.
that would actually, that historic building would go onto that space.
Oh, cool.
That's what we were looking at doing. Yeah, just so it would be seen from the road. It is a beautiful building.
Yes.
It has a lot to offer, but it also has its challenges.
Yes.
So that's what we're looking at. In order
What would
to-
you do with the barn?
We believe it. We would turn that into a barndominium.
Yeah.
This is a family project, so a family member would be living there.
So there is a lot that's part of that development adjoining it behind Mr. McCorkindale's house. So that's one of the tracks you're talking about.
Yes, sir. It's, you have the pictures in front of you.
Right.
It's right there nestled between David Brown and Cheryl Campbell's house.
And it was,
Kind of see, really refer to, on the next page, if you wanted to, refer to one. That's the order.
So if you look at the ones with the blue lines through that, those, how I broke that out is I broke it down into numbers 1, 2, and 3 in red. And then the blue lines are the ingress, egress positions. Beside the very front page, it just says private drive and then lot 316573. And that's where I would like to move the historic building so that it would actually be a road frontage property. So it could be seen if it's nestled behind those properties. And it's just really kind of lost in Never Never Land, in my opinion. So what we're looking at doing is we have to take it apart to two buildings to move it. It can't be moved as is. And I've already met with some folks that's what they've been doing for a long time. And it can be done, and just we just have to make sure we're following the letter of the law.
So is that 4 lots? It'll turn into 4 lots, so 3 other additional homes possibly being built?
In the back, we're looking at 3, possibly 4 lots. It probably is going to be 3, but I don't know yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the garage, the barn, that would be on one lot, and then the next ones would be as you go towards
And
the cemetery.
you're thinking about a subdivision type home? Are you talking about the homes that are by Cedar Break Park that you can drive beside the park, but yet if you go into these like quote unquote patio homes, there's a one-way in and a one-way out? Are you talking about
a shared driveway?
Okay.
And it would either it would go along the easement, the second, there's a 30-foot driveway. It's shared with David's. They have one, and then on one side, and then this has the other.
Right.
And so I was thinking if that would be a private road to the 3 or 4 properties along the line, and I haven't pursued this heavily, but I was looking at either having it go between the Cowboy Church and the lots, or between the 2 houses in front of it.
I was just thinking pavement, movement, the age of the trees that are on there. I know that in the city of Montgomery, you can get historical, I forgot what it's called, Sissy got it on her property, where they came out and looked at the age of her trees, so they protected her trees so they can't ever be taken down. And I'm just wondering on Mr. Shockley's property, will that be adhered to as well? Like if the trees are a certain age, they stay?
Well, there are a lot.
Yes.
A lot of them are
Yes.
Those cedar trees, a lot of them are past their lifetime.
Yeah, the tornado's been through a few times.
Yeah, so the ones that are salvageable, of course.
Okay.
But if they're dead or dying, yeah, probably not.
There's just one big pretty one.
Yeah. No, those big pretty ones would definitely stay. Are you talking about the oak tree? It's, that makes that very special. All the cedar break, it's great, but they're, like I said, those are, a lot of them are no longer with us.
have you researched the driveway beside the Powell house? You know, at the time that, I'm very familiar with this property. At the time that Joe Shockley bought that property, he was granted an easement which turns right in at that brick house, which was the Powell house.
Oh, yeah, Shirley Martin.
Yeah.
And there has been some controversy about that easement or not, but I always understood there was. He did have easement to that old house.
Yes, sir.
By
It is
way,
there.
yes.
From my understanding, it is the listing agent gave me a copy of the deed, that it does show a deed of easement.
So, as I understand the city, the only restriction that the city has for you to move the house on the property is that you couldn't remove the house, but you can move it on the property and make it a viable home. And so the development, if you had enough driveways, you may not have to totally subdivide all that. Have you spoke to an engineer about how they might want to subdivide it?
Not yet. We're in the option period, and it's a short one. So I've only been able to gather a certain amount of information during this third time. So.
Well, it'd certainly be great to see you get that house, because I'm really concerned it's going to rot down. And Joe Shockley put a lot of work into that
He
house.
sure did.
Oh, it's great. Actually, structurally, it's in good shape. We would, like I said, we would have to take it apart in 2 pieces. I don't know if we would necessarily put it back together because that would not necessarily be historically accurate.
Yeah,
The gentleman that I spoke with did a lot of work with Mr. Shockley.
yeah,
He said that he's done homes for 50 plus years.
yeah.
And he said that isn't normal for that year to have, usually a kitchen is the outbuilding.
Yes.
And so we were, just looking at those opportunities and options on what's the best way to move it, to keep it in its integrity, but also try to get it as historically accurate as possible.
Great.
Would you name it a subdivision, or would you just say there's 3 houses down there?
I'd probably just say 3 houses down there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because
One aspect of it, you would, when I say subdivision, it is a subdivision, so that's just the technical subdivision of land, but
All right.
not a description of a product or, a specific type of house or anything. It's just a subdivision of the land.
Yeah, because our subdivision is called something,
Yeah.
but nobody, it's Sterling Heights. But nobody knows that we live in Sterling Heights subdivision.
I was thinking it's just a private road access, and
Yeah.
we'd probably have to go over the opportunities and options on that as well.
I tell you that I'm glad to see someone that is from Montgomery looking at it, and it makes me very excited to know that someone's going to take the care with such history you have with Montgomery to make sure that this stays something that is special to our historical Montgomery type feel here. I'm very excited to hear
Yeah,
about
I
this.
like to preserve it. I mean, I love the old, like I say, we do these houses a lot. I have a passion, but it's also financially beneficial. Watch
Yeah.
what you do.
Well,
So, anywho, I'm excited about taking on this project and being a part of it. I didn't realize that, I can't remember, he's either my second or third grandfather, like great or great grandfather, Willis, sold it to.
oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So, the Hodgepodge Lodge, that's my people. And so there's about 3 old buildings that are all from my ancestors. So it's pretty cool. I like it.
Have you looked around in there to see all the stuff that is there to finish that house?
There isn't a whole lot. I've seen some of it, but it's been pretty restored.
Yeah.
It's in pretty great shape. It's
Copper
amazing.
sinks, air conditioning, all kinds of plumbing fixtures. He was kind of a fanatic. He'd buy that stuff and bring it home with the intent of putting it in.
Yeah.
And of course now, which would really be great because he had 2 adult children, and that house was awarded to their trust.
Yes.
And so it needs to really go forward to help those.
I went to church with them when we were all kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, if we bring this and say yes to it, then it goes to feasibility. What happens next?
And so based on your record, your feedback, to her tonight, should, be clear enough, either, we're not 100% opposed to this idea, no way, ever, no how.
Yeah.
If that's your feelings, certainly let her know. If you think you see some daylight, I will say that again, there's, to do a private drive, while it sounds simple, there are just hurdles in our codes that we've got to navigate to do that.
You'd have to work with all the people that already live there, and I'm sure you've already spoken to
So
them
this would
because it's
be,
a small town.
again, so from the development side, this would be just like a normal, development that would
Okay.
have to happen. It's just that, when you start that process, it can get expensive quick.
Does it come back to us any more than what it is now, or is this it?
For the idea of this or the concept of this is the time. The next time you would see this would be for a formal approval,
Okay.
in pursuit of this idea or concept.
So I'm looking to see if I'm going in the right direction that meets the city's approval. And if there's any suggestions that y'all would like to make, I'd love to hear them.
Oh, I am so happy. Like, I'm just, like, I can't wait. That's going to be awesome if it is possible to move that home right out front on Old Flannersville Road so people can see it. That is cool.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I agree. We actually moved a house in the Heights, but it's been a hot minute since we did that, but we moved that 20 blocks and restored it, so it's fun.
Yeah.
If you have the stomach for it, we do.
Yeah. But all those homes are cool. Like, Mrs. Cummings lived in one, and then she was born in the house beside it, and then back there's Mr. Chalkley. I mean, it's just history. It's real Montgomery history. It's cool. I make a motion to.
We have to let
Oh.
the guest speaker speak first.
And there's no motion at all needed.
Okay, good.
to this,
Good.
So we do have, and I see Mr. Gillespie's here, and so he is also, and Jason only came in a little bit late, and, may not have had a chance to fill out the form, so with that, I'll turn it over.
All right.
Okay.
I'll get the,
Cheryl?
Good evening, I'm Cheryl Campbell, and I own the right-of-way. That was done in 1970 between two family members. So to me, this is a big concern to have a driveway of 3 or 4 additional houses going through my yard. Just wanted to make that point, and it will be something. With the purchase of this property, as you can see, there's 2 other ins and outs that she'll be purchasing onto Old Plantersville Road. That is not my right of way.
2 more, you said?
Yes, there's one down.
Yeah, in the
corner,
curve.
And then there's that lot.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
So she has 2 points of entry and exit. That right of way was only for the 3 acres, not purchasing it all. I have young kids, so it's a point of concern to have traffic, whatever else. Fire trucks, trash trucks, whatever else going through my property. That was not designed for this purpose. So that's all I wanted to say. Did you want to say anything?
Well, I'm only here because I'm noticing on one of the sketches, we've got a line drawn going just to the side of my property there, between me and the cemetery. I'm not aware, I have plenty of surveys to indicate that I own it all the way to the cemetery, and I'm kind of confused as to why that's even a thought.
Can you come show us what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's the bottom
Please?
left image.
Is it the bottom left?
And it looks-
Because I know she owns the part of the cemetery. Tell me what you're showing. What am I looking at?
Oh my gosh.
Don't mess with it.
So I'm gonna have to hold it flat, but this right here.
Oh, alongside you. Okay.
Where's this at?
It's right here. I didn't see it. There it is right there. I didn't know that it came up in between the cemetery. I mean, I've been there for years.
Yeah.
That guy, Miss Cummings.
Is that
told me.
supposed to be an easement there? or
There is no easement there.
It's the
No,
cemetery.
these are all just ideas.
No, I understand.
Oh, okay.
He just need to put it on paper.
I just wanted to eliminate that idea.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you brought it up because I was like, no, you own all the way over there where you have nice, quiet neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, quiet neighbor.
Thank you so much.
So where was the other?
She's talking
Those
about the,
easements.
yeah, it's that driveway that's between,
Cheryl and,
yes,
yeah,
he's talking about here.
On this side,
Private
here,
drive.
right.
there's the easement, and then this is the.
Now, what's this?
That's a 30.
That's the side road.
That's the second entrance. So
Okay.
this is the easement out to access.
Right.
This one is, this is actual ingress egress. It's actually owned. It's not an easement to the property. So that's why when you look at it, it has that. So
Yeah.
that's actually part of the square footage.
So that is an easement to
Yes,
the property?
no, that's not, that's
part of the
actual
property.
own.
That's the road. Here's a
That's
lot.
That's actual property?
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
And then this is a lot, and then Ms. Campbell's property, there is a
Yes.
deeded easement to
Okay, I
access the
got you.
property
Okay.
on there.
But I do understand what she's saying, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is a
But
narrow,
I'd like something that we could possibly work through to make everyone happy. I know he's not trying to be an adversarial neighbor at all. I wouldn't want to buy the property just to use it all the time. But it is an easement that I would be able to like to utilize. And so maybe we can come up with something that makes everyone happy. And I would love to sit down and visit with you about that and see what
Do
we
you see
can come up
there's
with.
another, those are the only two.
Strongly feel
yes, there's only two, yes.
with some brainstorming, we could come up with some solutions that both of us could be happy about.
Why would you need two?
Now,
With the way he bought it.
The piece of the land that
You need two.
connects with Old Plantersville Road,
The one that's.
is that
the one
sufficient to
that
be
she's
used as an
talking about
access?
Is right.
It's a 60-foot wide, I believe.
It's
Why
just,
would you,
It's a
why
third of
would
an
you even
acre.
need that one? Why
It's
couldn't
like
you just use
a-
that one?
you can, but she was just using, it's probably easier and it's nearer to the old.
As far as-
It's
Do
just
you remember the
aesthetically.
She wants to move that here.
The Joseph Shockley,
Shockley have a house here?
lot
No, it's just property with trees on
So she wants to move this here.
7,200, I believe.
And
for some of their
can you imagine it being an
So you
historical
could
site?
feasibly have that as an access?
It could be, it could then utilize that lot, I wouldn't be able to move the historic building onto that lot. Unfortunately, though, that was the thought process on that.
Why can't you move it?
Well, if it were to be used as an easement to the back property, then it couldn't be
Yeah.
used.
Yeah.
But if you did move it, you could go into that other driveway and it'd come up and come behind it, if that was what really happened,
Right.
right? So you still could have access, you still could move that property, move the
Yes,
building,
yes.
the historical home to the
Yes.
property.
Yeah, but yeah.
You would just use a different entrance.
Right.
Okay.
But-
Well, we're all about,
Yeah.
we're all about neighbors, working with each other and deciding what y'all want to do.
You said it's 70 feet wide?
The lot there should be 75 by 200.
Oh, okay.
Give or take a few feet.
It's more footage than the developments are trying to give us.
Oh, yeah. No, I just wondered if the building could still fit there and still be able to have a driveway go by it.
Maybe not a driveway, maybe they come up the back way. Move the building, stay away from the easement, and use
Yeah.
that back entrance.
Well, there is no back entrance
There is, this
Where?
corner right here, when they come in right here.
off Plantersville Road.
Yeah.
So
That's
this
what I
is-
talked about, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Both
an
of them are
actual road
Plantersville.
into there.
See, if she moves that historical home right here and uses this as a driveway, she could come in and be the backside of it and go into all those other homes.
But can she put the historical home on an easement? An easement isn't right of way.
No, 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 no.
You can't put it on.
That's
an easement.
property. No, that's property. That is actual property.
So where you see there's the lot.
Yeah.
And then the blue line above it, that's the easement.
Oh, okay. So that's part of the lot there?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
He's got enough property there to put that house on there.
Yeah.
It's just the easement that's right beside Cheryl's house.
Yeah, it looks like that.
I mean, like right up in her house.
Well, it's a shared driveway.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's my property.
Yes, but it's like right there. Like you drive out and the
Yeah,
driveway, there's a gate.
I understand easements.
Dave, what do we need to do? No motions, just listen?
There's no formal action, needed. This is really just a feedback session for the potential purchaser. If it was just a hard no, that would influence her decision. I think she's, sounds at least like she's got an understanding that there are some obstacles, around the property, which is largely, why it's, like we've been on the market at the time of that. So there's a way through, but again, there's just some details that all have to be worked out. But what the commission's really focused on tonight is just, again, if you're, if you support the idea in concept, let her know. If you're opposed to the idea, outright, let her know.
I don't think anybody's opposed, it's just some obstacles, that's it, so.
And we're all for fellow members of the community coming together at a table and y'all making your own decisions in agreement. So when you present it to us, we don't have to go through those obstacles of this neighbor or that neighbor or whatever. Like, that would be wonderful if you could hop that obstacle fairly quickly up front. That would be awesome. Because I'm all about that old house living. That old house is pretty. It's just pretty.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It needs to.
It doesn't need to be back there in the back.
No.
Well, I'm saying yes. I like your idea.
Yeah, I want to hear more, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it too.
Okay, great.
That it?
That's it.
Okay. We will move on to item number 5. Consideration and possible action regarding approval of the preliminary plat for Lone Star Parkway Residential Section Number 1.
Before I get into this one, Ms. Joy Montgomery was also, she was the second public speaker for me. Ms. Joy, do you want to talk in advance of everything? I think it may be better to get into the details of the plat and then, pull it back if you'd like.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck.
I appreciate it.
Yes, good luck.
Like to see it resolved.
We're going to do our best. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joy Montgomery. Thank you so much for hearing me today. I just was made aware of this situation today. So pardon me that I don't have any papers for you or anything to forward to you at this time. My area of expertise, I'm working my PhD in history. I do have Secretary of the Interior qualifications as a professional historian. I'm also the Vice President of the Montgomery Historical Society. I'm also a part of the Montgomery County Historical Commission. In addition to that, I've also worked with federal and state governments. So I come to you today to discuss this area, number 6, and tell you a little bit about the history of that area. That area was settled by early pioneers to Montgomery. This is the area where the first settlers to the area that would become Montgomery, the city of Montgomery, settled. In the late 1820s to at least by 1830, they were there, and they lived there. There's talk of a trading post there. There's been artifacts that are there. There's also citation of graves there that are on land deed records. So the land deed records citing burials and a mound on the site, according to Montgomery County Clerk Records Document 202-3096-232, was submitted last year to Montgomery County Clerk. That cites the burials. Within that, it discusses, and it says that the legal description, whenever it was sold by Jacob Shannon to Robert Simonton, it said accepting and reserving out of said survey 30 feet square at the mound, including graves, there being the burial ground expressly reserved for that purpose. This reservation was continued through several land deed records from 1848 to 1878. Now, somewhere in the middle, it got lost in the ether, but those were never sold from the time of the Shannons. According to state codes and federal regulations, I'm also kin to these folks. Margaret Montgomery was my 5th great aunt. As that, Texas law requires that any person who wishes to visit a cemetery or private burial grounds where there is no public access shall have the right to reasonable egress over your property to visit the cemetery during reasonable hours, according to Texas Health and Safety Code 711.041. The law also provides a process to negotiate a written agreement between property owners and those visiting access to a cemetery without public access that will be filed and enforced by the Texas Funeral Service Commission Texas Administrative Code 205.2. Now, in light of this history, I would like to submit that given LiDAR evidence, which I have an expert in LiDAR here, Daryl Abear, and he's done surveys for this, I would like to pose a archaeological review for this site. And he can discuss that a little bit further.
Is there a reason why you're bringing this up? Like, is there something fixing to happen or something?
Yeah, this is the plat that
Yeah.
that's on our agenda.
Yeah.
Where they're about to build all those houses.
Yeah. I just wanted to bring that into the record.
Good evening, my name is Daryl Abear. So I'm a retired engineer. I've worked with the National Forest Archaeology, so we picked up archaeology as a hobby, and I've really concentrated on Montgomery County. And I've given local talks around here at libraries, Walker County Historic Society. My expertise really is looking at LiDAR, digital earth modeling, right? So you can pick up from these LiDARs road signatures and potentially housing squares or foundations as such. And what I did, when Joy asked me to look at this property, went through all the land records, so 20-something documents, whatever. That is not my expertise, but built spreadsheets and did my engineering as much detail as I could to try to come up with, and what I've done is with the maps, there's a lot of maps that show this area, which was the Owen Shannon, 220 acres, which was part of a 600 acres of Clark. And so what we're going to picture here is down by the creek down there, there were 600 acres along the creek, this side of the creek, 149, and to the east, there were 600 acres. Then he divided it up. This is all John Corner, 1 league of land. And then he did it 600 acres. Shepherd took his 200, and then there was a Clark, and he kept the 200, and then in the middle was this 220 acre. And when they end up, after Owen Shannon died in 1835, they divided it in half and sold the west half of the 220. That's where the exception that she's talking about. So based on that, there's 110 acres that I can plot pretty much and see that would be the 110 acres that was in there is a 30 square foot mound that was reserved for grave. So the other thing is when I looked at the LiDAR, looking at these signatures, whatever, I've kind of narrowed it down to the head of the spring, spring out there. And actually, since 2018, has been filled in by somebody else. They took the whole spring and it's already been scraped. The area has been disturbed somewhat in this area. That's what kind of brought everybody's attention to that area. Lefebvre, Montgomery, and a couple others went out. And a lot of them were taken out there. Talking about doing findings of a few odd artifacts. But Billy Ray and I've been working on it, and he said he actually found 3 iron posts, iron stakes, 3 iron rods that were about 30 foot apart. So you can imagine maybe at some point somebody went in iron, and 30 foot, maybe the last corner is gone. Now, he has a hard time recollecting exactly where it's at, right? And so he and I have been trying to get together working it. But he actually lived out there in the 1940 area, which I have taken an aerial and put it. I use Google Earth a lot. So everything I've got is on Google Earth. Sorry, we couldn't give you all these plans and show you all this stuff exactly.
Just to be clear, we have what you guys sent to Dave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, she just told us that, so I didn't get to send her all my, but part of the documentation is that land, and now I have, using the land deed survey calls, which back then were poles, which equates to 33 feet. I can measure, just on Google, I haven't been out there, it's not my property, but I can measure very accurately the outline of this 110 acres that we're seeing. In that 110 acres, I'm looking for anything from the LiDAR that might hint at a square, a mound, or anything that might be that. And I concentrated, it looked like the head of the spring. Now, right now, you can't see the spring, but 8 to 9, I can see where the head of the springs was, right? So, then went in and said, okay, LiDAR signatures, how big of an area we're talking about? So I'm looking, I just kind of real quick for it, just drew a little square, maybe 10, 15 acres. I don't know how big that residential thing is, but right there at the head of the spring looks the most attractive that I would think that this grave would have been. Also, a very typical site for early settler, because I mean, is that spring. And there's a lot of, there's some documentation saying Owen Shannon moved there, and potentially started trading there, because later on, he died like a year later after he moved there. He traded properties around. His actual land grant is north of Town Creek. But he was on John Connor's and then bought that 220 where his home was, sold one half, kept one half for his mom, Jacob did, for his mom. They lived to 1846, and he and his mom moved towards Dobbin, where he opened a trading post there. So it has a lot of historical value in that aspect, being kind of almost like their place where they came in, they set up, then they bought it, and then he got his land grant approved, and by then he had passed on, and his son also got a land grant over towards Dobbin, so he moved his mom over to the land grant over there. I know it's getting in a little bit of weeds, but it has a little bit of, that's what the kind of history of it is. It's a very, that spring is very historical in that respect, being out on the prairie and then in spring. I mean, we used to have his buffalo out there, and I think part of that had water, but it actually wasn't a very big spring, very small in that respect. So that's kind of the history and the documentation that I've done to kind of say this is your best spot. I think we're going to find something, and then there's very individual spots that I think need. You know, I do a lot of archaeology work, like I said, with the National Forest Archaeology Department there, and Kirby Kennel out here working with some archaeologists there. So I have a lot of professional, but I certainly have been around a lot of professional, learned a lot to try to find these historical sites. In the old Danville Road came right through there. Actually went down, in fact, one of the earliest egresses in the Montgomery area was from the east, right to the head of the spring and then on, which is a typical way to enter the area finding the spring.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
how much of this is this, the red line you have here, is this in section 1?
Or section 2.
And how much of that,
It's difficult to tell if it's on this property or on the.
So this point here is real, so if you're looking at the plat, it's somewhere along that property line. I don't know, I think it's generally this area. So I got this afternoon as well. So, you know, it's generally around kind of that stub street on the preliminary plat.
And that's section 1.
It's section 1.
It's where it's been scraped.
right?
Where it's already been scraped.
Yeah.
It's right around there. If you look on Google Earth map right now, actually in that scrape, that's where Lillary's house was.
And a lot of that dirt work is on that neighboring property. So it's very close to the
So, nobody knew about this when Lefebvre bought all this property. Wow.
This is new research that I've done on.
Pardon?
This is new research that I've uncovered.
Uncovered?
This on my-
When did you start researching this?
Well, I uncovered a lot of these documents. I just took a course in local history. And I've done a lot of research, 2 50-page papers, primary sources.
But I mean, when did you start?
I'm not, familiar with Gann. Gann was, he's the one that wrote
Gandy.
Gandy.
Harley
Yeah,
Gandy.
Harley Gandy was the historian for Montgomery
Yeah.
in the 60s and 70s, whatever. I work with I'm part of another group, the Montgomery History Task Force, and part of their thing is they went into his old house and they digitized all the papers. He actually had done work on this like in the 70s, and he lived back out that. So he was hot on the trail interviewing older citizens, and they thought they had an idea of where that old standing grave was. That was before they put a tombstone in the new cemetery. Tombstone in the new cemetery is not where he's buried. What I read and so was, it was so overgrown in that area. The lady he was visiting with, whatever, said, they couldn't get back there. So they ended up just putting a marker gravestone for an early settler. But his work shows that exact stuff that she's showing. He pulled those maps with the old 220 and the 200 acres, whatever, and he went through every deed. And I have his work that he researched to come into that, to find that area. Just never got followed through. It was, it appeared never got followed through, and then now this was lost for this long.
Yes, so it's been known in theory, I mean, it's been known, it's been passed down, it's been discussed, but these primary source documents haven't seen the light of day until most recently because we've done a lot of preservation efforts.
Right.
So what is it that what are you asking us?
I'm hoping for an archaeological review of the area just before there's development and everything so that we can see what is out there, just to make sure before a critical part of Montgomery, the city of Montgomery, history.
So how long is an whatever that is, archaeological review?
So maybe about 90 days.
And whose expense would this be at?
We can do fundraising and we can get it together.
Okay. And then what pressure does that put on the developer as they have already moved forward for us to be presented with the plans and all that stuff? Like, is this something that you've talked with the developer with, or you?
No, we haven't had a chance to.
Okay.
I just found out about this today, but in citing specifically those graves and those state codes, that brings the burden of proof that it does need to be reviewed at least.
For context, and the Red River property.
Yes.
So the Womack Cemetery is obviously near Womack Cemetery. So what they're doing as far as their development, they did an environmental assessment. Obviously, they're much further along in development than this group who has it. They don't own the property as of yet. They're still in the feasibility period. My understanding, I don't know if you know real quick, but in Redbird, they did an environmental assessment. They identified the grave sites, and so that is coming out as a separate reserve when they get to plating that section. So it's protected, it's not disturbed, and it's broken out as access.
That's that little grave site on Womack Cemetery?
Correct.
That I brought up and asked them not to.
Correct. Correct. So, again, with this would be something presumably similar. So, once it's identified, set apart, they determine that it has to be set aside, either if it's, on one of these lots, that lot either has to change or move or lose the lot. I know there was another site on what they had sent over earlier today that looks to be closer to the pond that's existing out there. And again, I'm going based off phone and this while I'm sitting here. Could be in their drainage reserve and open green space, which again, I think the same logic applies as far as, not disturbing it, access, et cetera. But, so again, this is, they're not at the construction plan stage, they're in the feasibility stage. I think this is obviously the perfect time to discuss this because they're nowhere near doing dirt on this property to make sure that they make allowance for it. As far as the requirements for the study, I think Dave attempted to talk to city attorney about that a little bit today.
What would be the effect of our action today, whether we approve or disapprove the planning?
So preliminary plat is just a planning tool. So it tells them, so for this development specifically, so in the past, there's been preliminary plats submitted on this property years ago. Council and P&Z have approved a variance for lot width and lot size on this property back in March. This document does nothing. So this doesn't get recorded with the county. This does not actually set any property boundaries or right-of-ways. Just this gives them the planning tool of saying this is generally the concept for them to refine and for them to prepare their construction plans off of. This isn't approval of construction plans, this isn't approval of the plat, so you're not actually locking any of these in. This is a, more or less a concept, a well-defined concept plan at this point.
So how long do you all need to do your study?
Well, that's what we're getting into. I mean, she mentioned about, and I know I worked in the oil field, so I understand about environmental impact and assessments of a well site. If you're going to do a well site or any kind of development, who's on, who does the build, who needs to do the assessment before? And I'm not quite sure how it gets decided, but when you get the fundraiser, it gets kind of hard around here. I don't know. It needs a GPR, ground penetrating radar, probably. It needs test pits, it needs shovel tests, it needs an area defined to do it. So I'm not the expert on that. That's where it'd be some archaeology saying, this is the project proposed, this is our transect we're going to run, this is what we're going to dig, this is what we're going to look at. We just do a number out for 98, but I'm just saying that'd be kind of precedent, because first of all, finding money to pay for something.
That's what I'm saying. We could be a year out at the most.
Yeah.
Funding and everything, correct?
Yeah, and I work with Section 106 reviews. So I work with Section 106 reviews, federal government with the Alabama and Shawnee Tribe of Texas. And so normally those assessments, they come in and they show what's there already, to show burials, to show what's on the atlas, what's on the archaeology atlas. But with this, we will need to do, as he said, ground penetrating radar potentially. But the fact that this is so critical to the history of the city of Montgomery and finally discovering this and putting this to rest, I think, before the development, could also add property value to the place and showing that it's a historical place.
Is there any legal, Dave? I mean,
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, so.
As first mentioned, I spoke with the city attorney today. So the state of Texas gives very clear rules for platting property. The local government code also says that a city may not impose any additional studies or conditions or any other type of requirement on a plat other than what is prescribed in state law. So while I don't know the veracity of the claims, that's not my role to judge on that. What I can advise you on is the platting process. And state law gives a city 30 days to act on a plat. And if it meets your rules and criteria, which these plats do, then they should be approved. We've not been in a situation where, now, no one's going to jail if we don't approve these plats tonight. I will have to follow up with the city attorney, because this would be the first time that I'm aware of that the city would not have met the time requirement.
So if we approve the plats and then it's out of our hands, they need to.
My understanding from the attorneys is whether the commission approves or doesn't approve the plat tonight, it's not something that the city plays a role in. Now, the city has, so we've got our historic preservation ordinance. And again, so there's a process for adding a historical landmark. That would be a process that would run separate and apart from platting, because it doesn't have anything to do with the subdivision of land. But again, it is certainly the commission's right to not approve a plat and to suggest or to require an archaeological review. The reality of it is, you could require the developer, say, to do an archaeological study, but from my understanding, again, this is based off one phone call, with the attorneys who are trying to get up to speed on something just as fast as the rest of us, is there wouldn't be any teeth to that, motion. In other words, you can't compel a developer to do an archaeological review, because we now have, certain documents. So Again, aside, the veracity of these claims aside, it's just simply not what the commission is looking at tonight. The commission is tasked with the review of this plat, which has been reviewed by the engineers, approved by the engineers, so that it meets our requirements. The city just simply doesn't have tools to create our own, process for platting or to create a special situation. That is exactly what the state legislature several years ago said that cities were not able to do.
Joy, I got a question. Based on the information that you've already pinpointed and everything, do you have any legal method to require the developer to allow you to go on the property to do a geological study? Is there a legal process for that?
Yes, sir. There is a legal process for people to visit the site of a grave.
But you have to identify where the grave is.
Yes, and that has been identified on the Texas State Historical Atlas.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So then you would have legal methodology to go to the developer and say, you can develop all you want, but I get access to that site.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, that's part of what I'm going to pursue. But I hope for the city of Montgomery that there was some way to at least look at these other potential archaeological sites. So I thought I would bring that forward. But as far as the grave sites are concerned, yes. And that's part of why I did the filing for the unknown graves. That is public information. That is up there with the Texas Historic Sites Atlas. It's also with the Montgomery County Clerk. So that has been filed, and that is legal.
So really, we, as a commission, we really don't have the power to do what the request is for 5 and 6, although we have your sympathy. You have my sympathy as finding a historical location of where there's a burial site and how precious that is. I don't know where we stand, what we can do to help you do that, but as a commission, we're just here to look at the plat and stuff. And I would hope that the developer would take into consideration, it's not like he's on that piece of property right now, developing it right now, and maybe there's some communication and whatever legal rights you have that you can communicate with that developer. Like, I don't know the rules, and you sound like you're qualified to make these statements, but even so, if they did find the gravesite, if it is historical, it'd have to have a plat and all that filing and stuff.
If they found an area that needed to be broken out, then that would have to be replatted, correct? Your whole subdivision?
Well, it would, so, again, right now, it's just preliminary, but, between now and the final, in the disturbance, and I'm checking, so we also have an archaeologist on staff, so I've sent him a text to get thoughts as well, as far as, the owners, and obviously, if it's disturbed, what that, opens up. Again, I think a lot of that will fall along to Dave's point. Landowner, not, platting necessarily, but it's something to be aware of and ask those questions.
So is it correct that you said that the developer doesn't own the land yet?
I believe he's still in feasibility.
Correct, that's something.
So they're still in so Taylor Morris, who's the variance, is still going through the due diligence process on purchasing the property from the current owner.
So these, I have the way that the dimensions of the lots, are these pre-development agreement or the new?
That's shown on the preliminary plots?
Yes.
These are the dimensions of the lots after the variances were approved back in March.
These are 55 foot.
Correct, 55. So just quick background, these are originally 45 by 120s were approved a couple years ago.
Okay, I see. Okay.
55 by 120s, keeping the 10-foot setback, no
Right.
side yard setback.
Okay. Nothing there.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you spoke with the city attorney, did you mention the Texas State Antiquities Code and the go for
No,
cemeteries?
ma'am, because.
So he wasn't aware of that?
Well, he's an attorney, so I'm not going to say what he is or isn't aware of, but I can say that the only thing that I'm asking him about in that phone call is what the obligations are as they relate to state law around planning. Because that's all these guys are there, that's all that's on the agenda, that's all they can address tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, at least everybody's aware of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe we can all pull together, find some stuff around there, but, yeah, I mean, the Texas Historical Commission, I mean, there's some routes you can go to try to force, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little
And you,
evaluation, but that's not you guys.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we appreciate you bringing it to our attention because, you know, I don't know, I didn't know that.
I support your effort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I support your effort.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your
You're
time.
very welcome. Keep digging. Keep getting it. So number 5 and 6, we're not going to do anything on. Do we need to say anything or do anything to move past number 5 and number 6?
Yes, our recommendation is to approve the preliminary.
approve the preliminary, right.
If there's any details that you've got, you know, with the valid documents, just
I mean, again, we'll see this again for the final plats. Hopefully by that time, there's additional discovery
you see it
and findings. So
without, you know, you don't in here, but you'll see the final plat, you'll also see they don't look at the construction plan, so.
So basically,
Council has to approve the construction plan for the development, so that will be on a posted agenda. Again, we're easy 6+ months out from that happening.
so yeah, they don't even own the property yet.
Correct.
Okay, so they have time.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and then obviously, you know, this will be brought to the developers.
Is there any venue you want to establish for communication between your folks and work where you want to share?
Yeah, we'll put you in contact with the land, or the potential landowners, see how as Dave said, is, you know, we're not trying to ignore any of this. It's what we're allowed to do as a body, and then making sure that landowner, potential developer, everyone's aware of this and the proper steps are taken, whatever those may be with all the state.
I mean, we're talking about 185 years. So it's a shop. That's all we think. And there, you know, and it's really good. I mean, it's really great history compared to
right.
what we find and what we, you know, it's just, we got to give it a shot.
Right. Understand.
You know, it's really, you know, not a chance that we find something,
Yeah.
the ark or anything.
Well, good luck. If you do find the Ark of the Covenant, let us know.
Almost go out there and start digging, right?
That's right. Where's it at? The Ark of the Covenant.
Take my little Geiger count.
I'm sure there's more, like, there's so much history.
Oh,
It's so soaked in it.
I'm surprised they haven't found stuff.
In my neighborhood, I'm shocked.
I've done a whole bunch of lot of work around the whole area. I can show you a lot. There's a lot of history still around. And if you look at like a 1940 era, it's very figured. You can kind of see how Montgomery was kind of almost a ghost town. There's been a lot going on in the 1940s. You know, there was a lot of empty lots in Montgomery. You can see where the old buildings were. Yeah, Montgomery's really rich in that respect.
Wow.
It had great lands around here that came to first Austin 300.
And if you want to, I can also meet with any of you who want to. I have access to the Texas Historical Archaeological Atlas.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I just got out of the hospital, I'm tired.
So
Yeah, I'm just tired.
right, so section 1, 95 lots, they meet all the variances that they requested, the plots meet the rules, so we have no objection to it. And then section 2 is the same thing, meet all the rules, we reviewed them, it's another 75 lots to get the total on here. Again, I know I've said it before tonight, but I'm saying this doesn't approve construction, this doesn't actually get the recorded plat, this is just approving the preliminary land plans, they can keep on going with their feasibility, and then obviously all the considerations with the historical will be further addressed.
I've got two questions. One on the curves, they're 54 feet. Is that it's a foot below what I thought we'd approved? I mean, I may be wrong, but is that acceptable?
So on on corner lots, you're allowed to measure at the 30 feet behind the building line on those pie-shaped lots. So when you go back to that measurement point, so this is making it at the building line, then it meets that 55.
Okay. And then second, the green space required, say only section 1 is built out, the green space would be met within just section 1. Correct. Because looks like there's a majority inside section 2.
There is, and now that you say that, do you remember if we looked at it independently also?
I don't know about independently.
I don't know what that requirement is off the top of my head. I just
So
looking at it.
it's a 1-to-1 compensated green space for every 1 foot reduction in lot size below the 9,000 square feet. They met it as an overall, and I cannot remember, and we typically have, if that was, oh, there it was. So if you look on the
Green space needed.
green space needed under the table, there's one on each plat, so it says 88 lots, less than 9,000 square feet, is required for 155,000 square feet. They're providing 214 in section 1, and then 214,000 in section 2. That table is kind of the bottom left corner. Required 77, providing 91.
Thank you.
Good question.
The other thing that about this development is they had the 10-foot setbacks on the side. That was a big component to this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or noting in the terms.
I recommend that we approve items 5 and 6 same time, since we know they're both the same action.
I'll second.
Okay. Got a motion and a second to approve the preliminary plat for Lone Star Parkway Residential Section 1 and Section 2. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All not in favor say no. Item 5 and 6 passes. Item number 7, consideration and possible action on approval of the final plat for Montgomery Bend, Section 2.
All right, good evening. So in your packet, starting on page 182, you'll see a copy of our memo. This is the final plat for Montgomery Bend Section 2. So this is the document that would be recorded with the county and will set the actual building lines, right-of-way, reserves, et cetera, as shown on the plat. These construction plans have been previously approved by City Council, and construction is primarily complete for this section. So you'll see a copy of the plat in your packets. Includes 88 single-family lots. This meets all the previous approved ordinances, part of their development agreement. The other kind of major thing, a part of this development in their development agreement, is they're required to pay impact fees, which kind of tie into the next item, at the time of plating. So the way the ordinance is written is that most developments will pay, they're assessed at the time of connection, assessed at the time of plating, and due at the time of connection, so paid with each lot. What the city did for Redbird in this development, they have, in the agreement, they pay that up front. So as soon as this plat is approved by both this commission as well as city council and gets recorded, the developer has 21 days, 10 or 21 days to deposit roughly $300,000 into the city's impact fee account.
Was this the one with the variance on the street width?
Yes.
Yeah.
20-foot, yeah.
20?
60-foot right away, so they're not required to show the pavement width on the final plat, only on the preliminary, but it's 28-foot pavement width,
20 foot.
which are the city standards. The street width variance was Redbird that had a mixture of street
Yeah.
widths.
And this is all the 45-foot lots too.
That's correct.
And it's too late for them to change the name from Longhorn Run to...
Yeah. I couldn't believe we were and we were struggling.
Oh, Lord. Lord, help us.
Dog and blind dog.
I make a motion, we approve the final plat for Montgomery in Section 2.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for the final plat approval for Montgomery Bend, Section 2. All in favor, say yes.
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 All deny, say no.
No.
We have 4 yeses and 1 no, so item 7 passes. Number 8, discussion and provide comments to land use assumptions and capital improvement plan and impact fees update provided at March 5th, 2024 meeting.
Right, so, as with your CIAC hat on, this kind of, we've gone through a couple steps of this with the land use assumptions and then the draft impact fee analysis that was handed out at the last meeting. So the next steps from this, so tomorrow night, City Council plans to call the public hearing, which based on the timeline won't happen until May. I don't have that in front of me. And then, so at your next meeting, so at your May meeting is when you'll provide your written recommendation to council as to approve, disapprove, make the change, et cetera, on the impact fee assumption. So tonight, we're kind of just early in that process. So, we provided it March 5th. If you've had a chance to review it, ask questions, comments, concerns, we'll answer as best we can tonight, whatever we can. Gather that, bring it back to you at the next meeting, or if we can get it to you in advance of the next meeting, but fully discuss it at the next meeting and make a final recommendation.
I read through this thing a couple times, and that's great, but I got one question. How did you base your assumption on the number of future connections?
So based on the land use assumption, so the land use table. So we said in the report, sorry, so this is the, kind of going back to last time, it's the responsibility of the landowner to make sure that they're not negligent with any historical items.
Say it again?
It's the responsibility of the landowner to make sure that they do not undertake any negligent work. So being made aware of it, ignore it, it is the landowner's responsibility for not.
Oh, you just got that from your archaeologist?
And that if it was a publicly funded project, which this one is not, it would have to follow all of the NEPA and SHPO and things of that archaeological reserve. So when the city, again, I'm going off base, but this is maybe helpful. So when the city did Exeter Development Board projects a few years ago, all of those had, since there are federal dollars and state dollars coming in, all those projects and those routes had to get clearance.
Yeah.
So when we put the water line in by the wall in the community building, it took incredible conversation.
Would you call Joy and let her know that?
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But, so back to your question, I'm sorry I got distracted. The land use assumptions, we looked at, if you look at page 10 of the report, there's a table in here of water demand. So it says based on GPD per dwelling unit. And then now that I'm looking at it, I'll send it to you. Essentially, we said that a commercial, we did it by acreage. For single family and for multifamily, we did it based on the number of estimated units on that property.
Yeah, because the reason why I asked the question is because we don't have, in some of those on the planned use and everything, we've got planned development, and some of that's commercial, some of it's industrial, some of it's institutional.
Right.
And since we don't have any developmental plat or anything. That's why I was asking how you could.
So for the planned development specifically, and I can bring next time we have a full table of essentially every parcel and what the assumptions were. But on the planned development, when the original planned development was created back in 2004, there is a general plan that was produced with that. And so we use that as a basis or what it's known to be. For example, obviously, we're not going to assume the CTE building is going to be single family because they're building a CTE building, and vice versa. If there's been a developer that submitted a plan on our property in the PD, we're going to assume it's likely going to be close to that plan within.
Okay, then my next question is current zoning regulation is 75 foot by 120 foot lots. Are your assumptions based on that?
So on the future land use plan, I believe that it was broken down into two classifications. There's high density and low density residential. Low density residential, we assume is 75 foot lots. High density residential, we're going off of lots per acre. So, we said that 75 foot lots, we're getting 3 lots an acre. Less than that, we're going to get 5 lots an acre. Over the whole development once you start taking out roads and drainage and detention. So yes, that was considered based on the future land use plan if it was high or low. But it wasn't, this one's a 55, this one's a 65. It was 75 and greater or 75 or less than 75.
I don't have any more questions.
Well, if you think of any, again, we have 1 more month. We'll review it at the next meeting, and you'll provide your written comments to council for them to consider at their public hearing. And then based on the timeline, so tomorrow night, they'll call the public hearing, these documents will get made public. So the drafts will get posted to the website for people to view. The public hearing, I think, occurs on June 9th, because there was quite a bit of time between call the hearing, hold the hearing, and then actually the order. And then there's a delay in the implementation because there's a 90-day period of, that people can dispute it after the ordinance is approved. So instead of opening ourselves up to charging fees and waiting, we're just going to hold out a 90-day kick-in clause. So that 90-day passes and then we're off to the races on the fees. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty. Is there any commission inquiries?
I would like to put a date down somewhere where we could look at the paint and submit that to the commission to see if we can agree on a possible color scheme for what we believe will make it easier for us to make selections.
And I also sent all of you the recommended lighting for us to get that looked at too.
Yes, thank you.
What?
Is there a date or anything, or
You
do?
want to try to?
Okay, all right.
Want to try to look at those
On the May.
next month?
Yeah,
I'm open this.
yeah.
Okay.
I think it's pretty
So-
simple. I think the color scheme we got is great. We just need to submit it and say,
Looked at the lighting plan, so yeah, we can discuss those
So
two.
the lighting and painting will be
Hey,
on
next month, okay. All right.
all right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Got a
I'll
motion?
second.
All right, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Oh, all ayes, aye.
Oh,
Ayes, say
everybody
yes.
say yes.
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 All- Adjournment passes.